Welcome, everybody, to the Thread of Exchange podcast. I am your host, Brandon, along with your co host, Xavier. Welcome back for another episode that we truly think that you will enjoy. But we are here to help you navigate your transition from a trans masculine perspective. So take some notes, make sure you listen in on how we help you dissect your journey from the psychological impacts on how we show up as ourselves today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick it right in gear. So today is going to be a very interesting episode, very interesting topic. We've gotten a lot of feedback from our peers, and so we feel like this is going to be one of those most highly demanding episodes where we're going to talk about 3 ways on how to prepare yourself in the dating world. So we are talking to you if you are a transgender man. We're going to give you some tips today on how you can prepare to date as a transgender man. So let's lay down some foundational framework. We want to talk about some dating norms and also some cultural stereotypes. I think one of the things when Xavier and I were putting together some notes, one of the things that came up, which was one of the major points we want to talk about, is how you walk into that space as a transgender man looking to date somebody else. And it's very different, obviously, if you identified as maybe a lesbian or a stud or what have you. But if you identified as that before, obviously you transition, it's very different dating. And I'll give you an example. So if you find out some details on an event and you go to this event and it's an LGBT function, primarily it's just going to be all women there. You're going to feel very comfortable walking into that space because number one, you know where you're going. You know you're going to a place to meet other women. And mostly those women are going to be interested, whether they're straight, lesbian, or maybe even bisexual, but you can walk into those doors with that true confidence to know, whoever you talk to, you won't get rejected because you already know how they identify from that sexual perspective. So walking into the world as a trans man, you don't know what you're going to get. There's a lot of hesitation when you go out to approach somebody because you just don't know how they identify. And so it makes it a little bit more challenging. And it can kind of wear in a little bit on your confidence if you don't know who you are approaching. So this is why we want to talk about that. We want to help you dissect, cut through that so that you can show up as a confident trans man and approach whoever it is that you want to approach and not get so caught up in your head on how they identify. Because especially however you're presenting, especially if you're passing, we want you to kind of walk into that area of confidence. And even if you're not passing yet, and you will pass, you're going to get there in your transition. We still want to arm you with a couple tools to kind of make it a little bit easier on yourself psychologically as you go and as you, present yourself to whoever it is that you're trying to pick up. So we really want to lay the foundational framework for you that's going to be based on those dating norms and those cultural stereotypes. When we are attending other LGBT events, whether we're going to some mixers, some day parties, the club, we know exactly what we're getting. We're going into that safe space that's filled with people that identify with their sexuality the same way we do. You're able to calm your nerves a lot better when you're going to a gay club or a gay environment. You know that you can easily go up and talk to a woman and not have to cringe the idea of being rejected because we already know that how they identify is they're going to be attracted to us because they're a part of that community. It's very different if you're going out as a transgender man, if you're just making a mall run or going to Target and you see somebody that's attractive and you want to possibly, get on. You're not sure if that person identifies in the LGBT community. You don't know if that person is discriminatory against, the LGBT community. So, talking to a lot of guys, that's kind of where they get stopped out at because the fear is kind of overpowering their thought process on should I talk to her? Should I get her number? Should I not? Because again, that safe space is jeopardized at that point because we're just not sure. And so that's why we really want to talk to you guys today, to help you come up with some different ways and ideas on how you can enter the dating realm boldly and with confidence. So we definitely do understand the challenges that are out there because the world is a mixed bag. You don't know who supports what. You don't know who advocates for what. You don't know who's against what. And so that's something that we always have to carry as transgender people, just not even just a transgender man, just transgender people as a whole, because we never want to run into that idea of being rejected. And so rejection is different when you're in the LGBT community because it's not that you're getting rejected because they don't like the alternative lifestyle as they call it, or they don't support it, but it's more so based on attraction. So if I walk up to a woman and if I'm a stud and I walk up to a woman and she's not interested, it's not going to be a blow to my ego or a blow to who I am. It just simply means she's not attracted to me. Like that's what that means. And so, but if I go out as a transgender man and talk to somebody at Target, I don't even know if she may even have an issue with transgender people. And a lot of times that stuff doesn't come out until you have that first initial one or two conversations. And so that's what we want to shed light on today is kind of debunking those dating norms and the cultural stereotypes that's based around us dating as transgender men. So we're going to give you 3 points today. So 3 ways in which you can prepare to date as a transgender man. Point number 1, we're going to talk about self-love and how that's immersed in confidence. Point number 2, we're going to talk about being clear on your purpose for dating. Why are you dating? Is it for fun? Is it to find a lifelong partner? And point number 3, we're going to talk about ways on how you need to be clear on your strategy for dating. So that's what we're going to talk about today. As always, feel free to shoot us some comments, give us some other suggestions for topics as we keep coming with more and more content for you guys. But we think we're going to enjoy this episode. So I'm let you take it off, Xavier. Go ahead. Point number 1.
All right, perfect. So point number 1, as you said, is self-love, immersion, confidence. And basically what that means is how do we love ourselves based upon what we attract. So meaning I can't project one thing into the world or this false sense of confidence in who I am as a person if I truly don't love and accept all parts of myself.
I think it do. I think it starts off with just that self-love. And I think it is something that's overlooked because we can't possibly want something from somebody that we cannot truly give ourselves first. And I know a lot of people don't really see it that way, but I think the more experience you have with dating people and you start to find these common denominators when you're going from relationship or associationship to associationship, you'll begin to see that, okay, whatever this person is giving me should just be an added bonus. I need to become fully whole and presentable.
Exactly. And if you don't understand what your value system is and understand like what your version of love truly means and what do you need from someone, first you have to give that to yourself. And once you give that to yourself, you can then, like you said, know how to navigate and how to ask for what it is that you're looking for in your future life partner or your person you're dating or whatever your intentions are for being with someone. And some of the ways that, and one of the biggest ways is really defining what does self-love mean for you. So defining self-love for yourself. And for me, if I was to be in a dating world, I know most people know that I'm married and as just like yourself, but the biggest thing that a lot of people don't do is they don't understand that you have to be completely and totally accepting of who you are and the things that you cannot change and have absolutely no shame in those things. Like I know in some of the discussions I've had with some guys, whether it's their voice, whether it's their face, whether it's, their height, whether it's, anything that's outside of yourself that you have no tangible control over, you have to learn to embrace and love those parts of yourself first before you can expect somebody else to step in and love you exactly for who you are. So if you don't love who you are, how can they?
Yeah. And the thing is, the world has not showed us great examples of that. The world has shown us examples of, you need to be this for me. You need to do this for me. I need it done like this. It's got to be said this way. I got to feel this way. And we put so many demands and that pressure for the external validation from that partner, potential partner, that we are literally holding them responsible for us feeling a way, feeling a good way. And we can't put that pressure on other people to be responsible for, if I wake up, am I happy? Throughout my day, am I happy? We can't, that's a codependency enmeshment. We can't put that type of responsibility on somebody else, but the world has shown us that it's the other person's responsibility to make us feel a certain way. And so for me, I don't subscribe to that. I feel like I have to show up fully and completely as myself, as Xavier talked about, loving yourself. So total acceptance is really loving yourself without shame. And as a transgender man, we identify and we can empathize with you that that is very hard because we are constantly looking at ourselves, picking apart ourselves. I don't like this. I don't like the way my beard is coming in. I don't like the extra fat that I have on my chest. I don't like this. I don't like my voice. I don't like the way I sound when I say certain words. I mean, you can really start to pick yourself apart. And so the pieces that you're picking apart, you're looking for that partner to slide in and to be that anchor for those missing pieces. But that's a recipe for disaster. That's not sustainable if you are looking for a lifelong partner. But if you just looking for somebody to have fun with, dip in and dip out with, then yeah, you can have those requirements in place. I need you to do the B, C, D. You understand it's not going anywhere, but hey, listen, I need you to make me feel like I'm the man. I need you to make me feel like I'm this, I'm that. And so you can have those short-term expectations on somebody that's not going to be a lifelong partner because it is sustainable in the short term, been there before, but in the long term, it's not sustainable. So that's why we wanted to start off with talking about total acceptance, self-love. And for those of you that's struggling with that, I can give you a couple pointers on how you can try to bring yourself to, first of all, the acknowledgement piece. Do I really love me? Do I
Mm-hmm.
really love all of me without shame? Because you got to be able to embrace that shame because shame brings upon guilt and heavy criticism and all of that. But this is just who I am. And so you have to learn how to love yourself. And so one of the things that I like to do that I have done, and sometimes that I still do when I feel like I'm reaching those points in my transition where I'm not being as loving to myself as I need to be, journaling, that's a great effective way because you want to start asking yourself questions like, why do I love myself? Why don't I love myself? What am I ashamed of that's attached to me? And so those are some of the questions that you want to ask yourself that you can do, during journal prompting. I know Xavier is a big fan of doing voice notes, where he'll talk to himself on his phone, voice notes. I've tried that sometimes. For me, I just like to write. So, and not type, but actually write in a journal. Those are some journal prompts that you can do to start to ask yourself, like, am I ready to date? Because if I don't love myself at least 80, 90%, then in my opinion, you're not ready to date because you're gonna constantly put that extra pressure on somebody to give you something that you're not even giving yourselves. And I think that's the level of maturity that you have to reach in your dating journey and then also in your self-acceptance journey. So another thing too with journal prompts, what are my flaws and how can I work to accept those? What's currently hurting me and why? Do I feel worthy of love? Why? Or if I don't feel worthy of love, why not? And one of my favorite things that is in my constant rotation, what can I do to show myself love and acceptance? Not what my wife can do, not what my brother can help me out with. What can I do to show myself love and acceptance? And so when you journal and you ask yourself these questions and you fire out your responses, another good thing to do is to ask yourself these questions in the mirror.
Yeah, mirror talk is a really good tool.
Yeah.
Know myself personally, especially like early on, just trying to learn and look for different pieces of myself that I appreciated, like with the growth in my transition, whether that's a little bit of peach fuzz, whether that's, the shape of my face, how slim or anything like that. Mirror talk is a great tool because it allows you to look at that person that you're facing, which is yourself, directly in the eyes and really be true, honest, and vulnerable with any response. And it also allows you to be able to feel your emotions and see yourself to your core, to actually look into your own soul and be like, hey, what is it? Let
Mm-hmm.
me tell myself, hey, I love you. I accept every part of you. You're growing, you're changing, and it allows you to give yourself grace verbally and also visually as well.
One of the things that one of the things I did not like about Mirror Talk, because I was never Mirror Talk was not my thing.
It's hard. It's
It's
hard.
hard, and I think that's why it wasn't my thing. Because when I get up to this mirror, I'm already looking at something I don't like. So why am I guess, putting that extra energy on that? I mean, it was times I would, and I have a huge mirror in my bathroom. It was times I just go in there, if I'm brushing my teeth or, brushing my beard or whatever it is, I avoided myself. I won't say avoided myself, but I avoided direct eye contact with myself. I'm just brushing my teeth. I'm just, washing my face. I'm hurrying up, rushing through my grooming experience because I didn't want to catch glimpses of parts of myself that I didn't like and I didn't fully accept. And so I shied away from mirror talk because it was very painful. I was listening to an episode on Mel Robbins' podcast, and Mel Robbins. I mean, we both fans.
Let's go.
I mean, she a goat, and she just has a very simple way of putting things that just knock you down. But she had brought her husband on her one of her podcast sessions, and he was talking about mirror talk, and he was saying like when he looked at himself, he hated himself for showing up as a husband. He hated himself for showing up as a father to his kids because he just felt like it wasn't good enough. Mel Robbins challenged him. She said, and I don't know if it was for like 30 days, 60 days. I don't really remember what it was, but she said she wanted to challenge him to look in the mirror like every day for this 30 or 60, 90 days and just simply say, I love you and I accept you and just do it every day. And he was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not, she was just like, let's do it, and he finally agreed to it because at first he didn't want to do it. And I felt that when he said he didn't want to do it, I felt that because I didn't, at that time, I didn't like to look at myself in the mirror. He said, he did it after a little bit, maybe a couple weeks, and he had to put his hand on the mirror.
Oh, to high five yourself.
High five yourself.
Mhm.
To high five yourself, look yourself in the mirror, tell yourself something great about yourself. You love yourself, you accept yourself. And I mean, he just broke down crying on the podcast. Just he couldn't even really explain it on how it made him face himself. And I think that's what the mirror does.
Yep.
It makes you face yourself. I mean, no top tier therapist can make you do that. No life coach guru can make you do that. Only you have that ability to look yourself in the mirror, in the eyes, give yourself a high five. And I didn't break down crying when I was doing it, but it really did something to me because I was just like, man, it's not fair to treat myself like that. Like, what has myself done to me
Mm,
that I'm not even paying attention to you?
right.
Like, it made me think of like a screaming baby trapped in my body, and all they want you to do is like pick them up, but you don't pick up the baby. You don't even want to look at the baby. As you hear the baby crying, you ignore it, and it's like, what did I do so bad to myself where my body, my emotions is fiending for me, fiending for me. My body, my emotions is crying out for me to accept me.
Yep.
And I'm just mad as hell at the world because I didn't get this or I didn't get this in my transition and I couldn't change this in my transition. And I'm just mad. And my body and my emotions is like, yo, you a king. We miss you.
Yep.
We beg for your attention all day long. And we're going to keep begging for it because we want to be one with you. And so that's why I feel like that mirror talk is so deep and it's so needed and it's so hard and it's so scary. But if you can just do that 2 weeks, 30 days, high five yourself. Like I think it's life changing, you know. And some days I still shy away from the mirror. I'm not, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying every single day. I'm just in the mirror. Like I'm not, I'm not, you know, I don't, I'm not. But I think that I can look at myself and say, hey, yo, you a handsome man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yo, you a handsome man. You know, so that's why I think that mirror talk is important.
Yeah, we got an episode coming up on Mirror Talk, right?
We do. We got an episode coming up on Mirror Talk, and I think you guys is gonna love it. It's fire. But yeah, I just think that mirror talk is important. And before we move on to point number 2, I do want to leave you guys with a really good book recommendation. My wife actually recommended this book to us for us to read. But it's called Loving Yourself. It's on Loving Yourself, but the title is The Mastery of Being Your Own Person. And that's by Dr. Sherry Campbell. So if you get a minute, check that out.
All right. And then point number 2, as you mentioned earlier, when it comes to dating, is be clear on your purpose for dating. Is it just for fun? Is it to find a lifelong partner? So why is it that you want to date? One thing that you can do to get clear on your purpose for dating is you can ask yourself, like, what do you stand on these 5 core issues? I know for me, I had non-negotiables, and for me, the 5 core issues or 5 core values was the biggest thing for me was finances, family dynamics, religion, political views, domestic household expectations. And so if we didn't see eye to eye on those different topics, I wasn't willing to move forward in any type of relationship with you, especially if it was something that I was looking for, meaning like a lifelong partner. What about you?
Man, I think, first of all, I commend you for doing that. Because when I started off dating, I didn't verbally say like, hey, these are my 5 core values. These are I did speak on my non-negotiables, but I never made it very clear that these are my 5 core values. And I don't know if it's because, I mean, I've been dating for so long, was dating for so long. And so at, 24, 25, I probably thought I wanted a serious relationship, but really wasn't in that headspace to do so. And so for me, that's probably why I never was like, hey, let's sit down. But with my wife, who I've been with for almost 12 years now, married almost for 7, I did have those conversations with her, but that was much later on, like in life, because even when we got together, I mean, we talked a little bit about finances. We talked a little bit about family structure, household, but it wasn't until I actually got married that I started to really kind of be more rigid on those. And thank God it was aligned with my wife, because can you imagine getting married to somebody and you like, hey, these are my 5 areas, and there's like, no, I don't. And then now we got a mess. So I got lucky being able to be with somebody as you change, because what my 5 core values were 5-10 years prior to her was different. Even when we got together at 28 and then at 33 getting married, I mean, things change and things are different. So advice to my younger self, if I had to start over, right, and get married and pursue somebody for a lifelong partnership, for me, my number one thing is finances.
Mhm.
Because for me, finances equate freedom. It's not about the material things, what we can conjure up, what we can materially, physically get our hands on. It's about how can we live, breathe, and move and not have to worry about debt, bills, not have to exchange our physical body for labor, for money. How can we set ourselves up financially so that if my wife came to me one day and was like, yo, I can't take this no more, these hours at work, I'm stressed, I'm this, I'm that, and I could say, no problem, put in your 2 weeks. And I have done that to my wife. So finances for me is very important because just think about it. If you get into an argument about some type of discussion or some type of view or whatever, and you got financial burdens on top of that, I think financial burdens just makes the arguments 10 times more messy, 10 times harder to emotionally regulate, 10 times harder to come up with a solution. So for me, finances is definite number one. And I'm not saying to be rich and all of that. Whatever your number is your number. Whatever that's going to be good for you and your family or you and your potential partner, that's your number and that's cool. It don't matter what anybody else think. If you are okay and you feel like your number brings you financial freedom and your number is not in the millions, that's cool. Not a problem. But just know you got to have a number. You got to be all right with that number and make sure that your partner is on that page, because if you are looking for financial freedom and your partner is looking to be below average, then you're going to have some issues with that. So for me, it was finances. Two, it was domestic partnership responsibility. Who's running a household? Who's taking care of inside, outside, both? However, we're going to work together on that. Who's cooking? Who's cleaning? Who's not? So that's another one that was important for me. The third one that was important for me was family.
Oh yeah.
Family wasn't at the first on my list because I felt like I can't run a family if I don't got my finances together. So, and for me, I don't want to bring in children into the world. I don't want to take on the responsibility of courting a woman and I can't even run and take care of myself financially. So for me, finances was always first. You have some people who feel like family is first, and that's fine. It's neither right, it's neither wrong, it's neither good, neither bad.
I got a
But
question. I got a
yeah,
question. Talking
yeah,
about family. So not just the family that you create, but
yeah,
like talk about like parents living with you, people like that's what I mean. When I say family, that was
yeah,
my viewpoint was like if when this person's mom gets older, this person's whoever get older, like how are we gonna navigate those type of family dynamics? How much input do we allow family to have in our relationship in our life? So that's what
yeah,
I meant by that. Is like for me personally, it was more of like, do I, your how is your family dynamic? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? Understand that you being with someone who is of the trans experience that, my family is not may not be as loving and as accepting, or they may not even be in the picture because of who I am and who I exist as in this
yeah.
world. So like family dynamics, like how important is that to you? So I think that was like another version of the family, not only just the family you create, but also like the family that you come from and what that relationship looked like too.
Yeah, that's another great point because that is important. Are you close to your mom or are you not close to your mom? Is there some issues going on between you and your mom, between you and your dad? Can I see a potential mother wound that I'm willing to deal with? Can I see a potential father neglect that I can try to navigate where you don't put that on me to be your father? Like, just a lot of those different things. And, how for me, I didn't care what the family thought about who I was then and who I am today. For me, that was never important to me. If your mom don't like that I'm transgender, your mom doesn't like that I was a stud prior, if your dad don't like that, like that's okay. But you will find in time that it does circle back around. The more years that y'all have together, especially when you start to bring kids, obviously what they say, kids bring about a whole nother layer of a person who you never met. So so it's different. And a lot of these things, guys, you're not going to be able to foresee. We're not saying do a 1,300 checklist questions and then for you to decide if you can pursue something with that person, but identify the five main things that are important to you. If it's important to you that her parents accept you being transgender, if that's important to you, that's fine. Me, I don't care what you accept. I don't care what you don't like. I'm not changing. I'm with your daughter. She gonna be with me. Either you gonna have to get on our wave or don't. Because this who I'm gonna be married with. I personally do not believe in the acts, the parent for hand in marriage. I'm not because I don't care. I'm going to give you that courteousness to let you know, hey, I love your daughter. I'm into your daughter. I'm marrying your daughter. If I could have your blessing, that's great. If not, that's even better. It's great too. This is what I'm doing with my life. So I'm not asking nobody for permission. I'm just gonna just put you on notice and let you know this is what I'm doing. So again, just make sure you got all your core things in place. It could be more than five. These are just five for us that are very important, that has high priority on our list. Political views is another one too. Where do you stand at? What side of party are you on? That's important as well, because that helps shapes our future. That helps shapes the way that we're raising our children. What do you think about that? Where are you at with that? And obviously, do you have some type of spirituality? For me, that's important. Don't have to be religious or anything like that, but like, do you believe in the law of attraction? Do you believe in manifestation? Do you believe that there is a universe or somebody that created us that is helping orchestrate our path here on earth? Do you believe in that? Like, how do you practice that? How does that show up? Are you accountable to that? Like, how do you feel about that? So for me, bro, those were my solid five. And I had conversations about that with my wife, but I think the older I got, the more in tune I got with, and obsessed with being a family man, obsessed with being a great husband, is when you start to redefine those questions and ask those things and, just kind of check in and make sure you're still aligned. Cause a lot of times it can happen where you have different views and things change, but, just make sure like our legs are in place. So.
Yeah. And I know for me, like I probably never told my story of my journey, but I actually had to navigate divorce. And that was because for one, I didn't know who I was. For two, as we were talking about the five core values, that was not something that I even thought about for whatever reason. But when I got out of that space and I started to navigate the dating world, I can't say one book that I would recommend, that I have recommended to a lot of my friends who have gone through either similar situations or are looking for a lifelong healthy partner, is called If the Buddha Dated by Charlotte Castle, Dr. Charlotte Castle.
Well, why do I always mess that name up?
I don't know. You butcher that name every single time I tell you this book, man. I'm like,
what do I be saying? I don't.
if the Buddha had dated and all I'm like, whoa, what is happening?
I don't know I don't know, man. I can't say it. I don't know why it won't come out, man.
That's because you Spanish, you start speaking Spanish and stuff. But no, but the reason why I personally recommend this book is because not only did I read it, but I also started to apply a lot of the principles that the book discussed in my life. Whether that's to not take dating so seriously, putting yourself out there, different ways to do that, and really just to stop looking at being with someone the end all be all. It truly helps you define like, hey, maybe that person isn't a good partner for me, and how to be okay with this person that you're choosing to date, like not being or not ending up in a relationship. So it's a really solid book. I've recommended it to a few guys who have also started using these principles and are now navigating healthier relationships with future partners. So
And while we on the book recommendation tip, there's also another book called Eight Rules of Love by Jay Shetty, and we are really big fans of him and his work. How he says my work. That's how he talks.
he looks at you with the eyes.
Yep, those eyes, man. That's my guy. But that's a really good book. Xavier finished it. I'm still struggling alone, and I don't know how he finished it. And I think I had gifted it to him or gave it to him first or something. Yeah.
It's an audiobook. So because I was, because of the job that I have, I'm always moving around, and sometimes it's hard for me to sit down and actually tangibly read a book. Audiobooks are the way to go. I
Yeah,
didn't listen to
I have
anybody.
not come around to that. I like the tangible book, bro. But and then also too, it depends on who's reading it. Because sometimes the person that's reading it is like, I can't listen to that voice. But Jay Shetty, he read his own book. So I was like, okay, I can get with it. But yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up with the last tip. And that last tip is be clear on your strategy for dating. And so, how are you planning to navigate dating? Are you going through dating apps? Are you utilizing social media like most people? You want the in-person approach. Me personally, I would, if I had to be in the dating world, I'm choosing social media, dating apps. I've never been on a dating app. I mean, I don't know. I've heard some horror stories, and then I also have heard people meeting lifelong partners. I'm all set on that, but I just prefer like social media.
Yeah,
I think it's easier to identify a catfish that way on social media. Like
that's true.
if you ain't never popped online and said hello or went live once or dropped something in your story, I'm looking at you crazy. So I'm saying social media, and then I also feel like approaching somebody in person. I think that's the easiest way to build your confidence because you gotta put yourself out there. You gotta, make sure your swag is on. Make sure you groomed, you dressed well, you smelling good. Like you got to be quick on your feet with with your lines and all of that. So I just feel like that's the easier way to build up the confidence is like, in person. And so one of the major like hot questions is, when do you introduce yourself as who you are to that person that you're dating? Like, is it when's the right time? I don't want to out myself, or sometimes people have safety concerns or things like that. So, like, when should you introduce, you know, yourself to somebody? For me, if it's in person, obviously I'm not seeing somebody who I feel is beautiful and I'm walking up to him and we talking, I'm getting numbers and yeah, by the way, like nah. nah, just get your number.
Then
get
from there, we have a conversation.
right. Get your number
Open
and
conversation.
right, go ahead, get your number. We not doing all that extra. We gonna get the number. We gonna set a date. We gonna plan a date. We gonna set the date, and then we gonna have a conversation on date number one. That's how I'm doing it. What about you, bro?
Facts. If I had to be in that space, which I don't foresee at all, but if I was a single man and I was looking to date, for me personally, honestly, I would not do any type of in person approach. I am a huge introvert, so social media is for me is going to be my realm that I would, and I wouldn't even expect nobody to go live or anything like that. And the funny story, I actually met my wife on social media prior to prior to my transition, prior to anything, and I actually thought my wife was a catfish, man. I thought she was a catfish. Didn't have any updated photos, like it was, but that's a story for another time. But yeah, we set a date. We talked via FaceTime. We did voice notes, so on and so forth, and that's kind of how things unfolded. But if it was me, honestly, like I would put the flag in my bio. I would send somebody over to my social media. Like, if you like what you see, you cool with this, you cool with that, then we
Yeah,
can move forward. But I'm not gonna wait, and then I have you emotionally wrapped up in who I am and who
yeah,
you're seeing, and then that'd be like one thing for you that's a deal breaker. So I'm not gonna set myself up for that type of emotional turmoil, like
yeah,
being rejected after the fact. Like, nah, before we even get started, and that was the same thing I did with my wife as well. Before we even, get serious, before we actually start talking on a deeper level, I do want to make sure that this is something that you're okay with, and that you are willing to move forward with someone like me.
I definitely would agree, man. If I was out there dating, had to, I'm putting it up in my bio. Obviously, if I'm looking to date, I mean, I don't know. Do you have a page just for dating where you put that in your bio, or are you incorporating that and just who you are? Because if I'm single and I'm running like say for instance, I got a social media page and I'm single, I wouldn't put that in my bio because I'm not trying to attract people that way. I like to go out and I like to approach whoever it is that I'm talking to. So online, it's just like a straight person, you know, a heterosexual cisgender person. Are you putting your cisgender in your bio? You know what I mean? Not on social media. You can put your pronouns.
Mm,
For me, I'm not doing that. Like
okay.
right now, if you take my page as I am today on social media, and let's say I'm not married, I'm not putting that in my bio. I'm not that this is who I am. I'm just not. But on a dating app, absolutely, because that is for that dating app is just for dating. My social media is not just for dating. My social media is for a lot of other things. But on a dating app, I'm definitely putting that in my bio. So I would do that. I'm letting you know on the first date, it's not outing myself, it's who I am.
Yes.
So I'm putting that out because I just want to make sure there's no type of, you know, discriminatory ways or feelings or you know, being conflicted or confusion. I don't want any of that. I just want to let you know like who I am, and that way you can decide for yourself if this is what you want to do. So my advice is to be honest, and you know, don't really think about it as like a safe space or you're getting outed. It you are who you are. And so I feel like it's first of all worth celebrating. It's very deserving. It takes a unique type of person to be who we are and to live comfortably and truly. And so everybody else should know that. So I think if I'm you, I'm letting you know, if especially if you're interested. If you're not interested in a person, because you're not even gonna go on a date if you're not even like interested. At least that's my perspective on how I'm looking at it. I'm not taking you out, I'm not spending money, I'm not because when I take you out, I'm taking you out. So I'm not spending my money putting together dates, planning things, and if I'm not interested. So my advice, let them know on the first date. And one of the major things that I really just kind of want to say is one of the questions you want to ask yourself: are you truly financially prepared to take on the responsibility of pursuing someone? Are you truly financially prepared to take on the responsibility of pursuing someone? Because Netflix and chill, this is not an acceptable date. It's just not.
In the future, yeah, but not a first date. Be like, yeah, come with Netflix. No,
It's
it's never
not.
like I think a lot of people just think that dating is just dating, but you're truly investing not only your money but yourself, your energy, your time into someone else. So if you don't have the means, or if you like, you know, if you like to go out, if you like to celebrate that person, be with them, you need to financially be in a good space in order to do that.
Yeah, because it's not about trying to impress the girl. It's not about trying to, you know, you gotta splurge or wine and dine all the time. It's about not putting yourself in a situation that's going to set you back financially, because that's what it's really about. It's not about trying to impress her. It's about, can I still be comfortable, take care of my bills as a single man, live comfortably, and still have extra to give to this date or to this show or this concert, this event, you
Right.
know, this trip, whatever it is. And if you can't do that two, three times a month, because that's what dating is. You don't just, okay, we just gonna go out once a month.
Unless you
Like,
get creative. I mean, you know, unless you get creative, but if it's something, even purchasing art supplies, if you can't even sustain your day-to-day life, trying to
right.
throw this into the mix, trying to throw in different events, even if you plan it where it's, you know, where it's free, you know, you can you even truly still afford anything outside of your, like you said, your day-to-day life?
Yeah, and that's what it's about. You shouldn't approach it if you are not in order. So again, we talked about that self-love. We talked about taking care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure you're taken care of in order to be able to take care of somebody else. And not saying dating is taking care of somebody else, but even if you went to a free festival, like there's an Arts and Beats Eat festival in my hometown that is like $12 to get into. You know what I mean? Like that's I mean, it's nice too. So that's a good little date idea. However, once you get into Arts, Beats, and Eats, we gotta eat. Like, I mean, so you go around to all these little booths that you can sample foods and from different cultures and jerk chicken and curry and Vietnamese food and all different parts of the world. You gotta have money to be able to enjoy the experience there. And those tickets, it's like $25. You only get 10 tickets. Well, one sample is like 7 tickets. So as you can see, it's already starting to add up. You got parking. So like when you on average, when you're dating a woman and you're going out, you're probably going to at least spend $100. I can't see you spending less than that unless y'all went to like I don't know. I can't even.
You could take it to the water. You can do like a whole like little picnic date. I mean, there's different ways around it, but even still, you still have to invest some type of money into
Right.
it.
Yeah. So that's true. So a picnic date, something like that, they may cost you 50, $60. That's great, but you can't keep taking her on a picnic date every week. So so, so again,
So come to the picnic real quick. I got something for you.
gonna take her on a breakfast picnic. Then next week we're gonna go on a lunch picnic.
Then we're gonna have a charcuterie board next. Like
Then we're gonna do a dinner picnic. Hey, this is picnic month.
God.
Hey, what we just said is
Yeah.
you're talking about at least $50, $60, right? But it's a lot when you have to add it up over time. If you want to see this woman every week, because if you me, I'm seeing you every week. I gotta be top priority. I want to be first on your mind. Like I want to be engaged. I'm showing up. I'm being attentive. I'm being creative. I'm switching it up. We doing this. We going like coffee dates, great. But how many coffee dates can you do? Quick little lunch dates, like that's great. That's more affordable. Let me take you to breakfast before you go to work. Stuff like that, whatever. Like it still costs money. And if you only spending, let's say $40 or $50 on a date, and you do that every week, that's an extra $200 a month. Which is why I say, hey, make sure you're prepared financially because extra $200 a month, it is a bill. Dating is a bill. It's a bill. If you want to really spend time with that person. Now, I say put all your work in the first 6 months. I'm talking about go hard. Because after the 6 months, at least y'all be at each other's house. And then now you can bring back that. You ain't gotta be spending that money, man. you don't gotta be spending that money. You don't. Now you can Netflix and chill at 6 months.
That's true.
You can cook her dinner at 6 months at your house. You can go to her house, cook dinner. I mean, you can play Twister in the middle of the floor. Like, I don't know. Whatever people do.
Those are fun.
It is fun. Like, so now you can, do more things and not have to really spend that money. So that's why I said go hard for the 6 months. So she'll feel comfortable with letting you come over to the house. Now you good. You can start putting that money back, in the account. So, but hey, we hope y'all enjoyed our episode today and you got some nuggets. So, just to recap, just 3 ways that we want to help you guys prepare to date as transgender men. Number one, self-acceptance. You gotta love yourself and totally accept yourself without shame. That's the main thing because now you can show up confident in order to be able to approach other women. You gotta love yourself first before you can do that. And then the second thing is be clear on your purpose for dating. Are you dating long-term for a partner? Are you just dating because you just want to have sex? Are you dating because you're looking for some external validation? Are you dating because whatever? Just be clear on that. And that's okay for whatever reason why you're doing what you're doing, but you need to be clear on that. And the other person needs to be clear on that as well. And then also too, just be clear on your strategy. How are you going to approach dating? Is it going to be in person? Do you need to work on, being confident in approaching people? Is it going to be on social media? Are you going to be on dating apps to identify it in your bio? What's your strategy? How do you want to approach this? So anything else you want to add, Xavier?
I mean, I think we covered everything today, and hopefully someone who's listening either finds value or they share this with someone who will find value in our content, and someone who's actually struggling with dating. I think this would be a very great episode to share with on their story, to share with a friend. I just look forward to just continuing to give them more and more, information and insight on how to really truly be strong and confident and show up as themselves in the world. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, we will catch you guys on the next episode, wherever you are streaming this from. We appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe at the Thread of Exchange, wherever you catch all your podcast media outlets and just your social media news. We're on Instagram, YouTube. We'll see you guys in the next episode.